The average person has weakness in their rotator cuff and poor scapular stability, limiting their gains. Today, you'll learn the most effective band exercises to unlock your upper body strength potential. Expect your shoulders to become robust in a variety of angles, allowing you to move freely in all directions. For perfect band external rotations, you want to set up with an even band assistance sideways. You're going to keep your elbow by the side throughout the entire set, and you're going to externally rotate the shoulder as far as you can before you begin to compensate. Now, it's really key here that you're feeling it in the posterior shoulder, so take care of your posture. Nice and upright, and you want to keep this humerus centered in the joint. The unique benefits we're getting here is it's isolated to the posterior rotator cuff, and it minimizes the delts helping. Next up, we have the band lateral raise out to 45 degrees. Now here, you want to use a sweeping motion. Try to avoid using your upper traps in this exercise. We're only abducting to 45 degrees because we're trying to isolate the supraspinatus, that rotator cuff, which is heavily active in the first 15 to 30-ish degrees of abduction. Next up, we're moving on to circumduction of the shoulder, starting with the Y in the clockwise direction, then also the counterclockwise direction, and then also forward to back, building up our overhead stability. Exploring now the next range of motion, heading into the T. We're going to repeat the same sequence, making those circles in one direction and then going back the other direction, keeping our arms straight, really squeezing our scapula into retraction, finishing with forward to back, trying to move through your controllable range of motion. Finishing up now with the I, aptly named because our arms are down by our sides, doing the circles with control once again, then the other direction for reps, and then finishing with forward to back like this. The benefit of circumduction is you're building strength in all of those awkward angles. This way, you're less likely to get pain or injury if you enter those positions in your training, making you more resilient. Moving on to the classic, the face pull. You want to anchor the band low so you can really get that engagement on your rotator cuff. Step out, get some tension, and you're going to pull up into a 90-90 position. Up above the head like this, come down, rotating back and forth with control like this. You'll notice I'm keeping my elbows high so I can really focus on that external rotation component. The benefit of face pulls is we're strengthening that vulnerable 90-90 position at the shoulder. This is where many people have instability, pain, or weakness. So by strengthening this area, you'll be more robust across the board. All right, we've got the band pull apart, and there's two different variations for two different benefits. Firstly, we've got overhead. You want to have your elbows straight, hands in external rotation, and you're going to pull apart until the band touches your upper traps, keeping it smooth as well as controlled. Next is the traditional T position. Here, elbows straight, you're going to pull apart, really getting into that scapular retraction at the end, controlling it through that full range of motion. Overhead pull aparts improve overhead stability. Think handstands, overhead press. Pull aparts over here towards the T position help to strengthen up your upper back and undo the rounded shoulders that we all struggle with. Continuing on with the scapula, we have the whippet. This one, elbows straight, you're going to reach behind you into full retraction. Now, you're going to spread your shoulder blades apart, squeezing into protraction like this. This one's great for strengthening that serratus anterior that is on the rib cage, which is an overlooked muscle for overall strength and health of your shoulders. Moving on, we have one of my personal favorites, the shoulder dislocate. It's very forgiving with a band, so you'll be able to jump in and make your shoulders feel fantastic. The hand width apart depends on your level of mobility. So the further away you are, the less flexible you are. That's a good choice. If you want to challenge yourself further, bring the hands in closer. With your arms straight overhead, you're going to elevate the shoulders, and then you're going to retract them back behind you. And then you're going to reverse the motion with control. So if we look at that from the side, you see that I'm elbows up, I'm retracting, trying to build a big arc with my shoulders, keeping my shoulders pinched backwards, and then I reverse the motion back to the start. The value of shoulder dislocates is we're getting a really nice stretch through our chest, and we're improving mobility into shoulder extension in particular. So if you want better dips, push-ups, more comfortable bench press, this one's going to be a game changer. All right, you guys are in for an absolute treat here. You've now got the band anchored at head height. You're going to loop the hand into the band so that you don't have to worry about your grip. You're going to get some tension on the band, stand facing forward. Really important, you want to keep your torso facing the same direction at all times to isolate it to the shoulder. You're going to rotate as much as you can in the shoulder joint. Then you're going to reach up behind your back. You're going to reverse the motion, slowly moving back, rotating again, all the way to end range, reaching up overhead. Now pulling in front of your body, reaching down towards the waist, and you're going to reverse it again, making sure not to rush the movement, trying to control every articulation as you come up, elbow goes straight, you repeat that into the rotation, and this just feels absolutely glorious because we've got the traction of the band separating the joint surfaces. It's almost like you're doing physical therapy on yourself. The great part about this one is you're getting every scapular and humerus movement all in one. So if you're someone that's short on time, this bad boy is an absolute lifesaver for getting activation of your rotator cuff, blood flow, and all that good stuff. The shoulder joint is one of the most mobile in the entire human body, and it's capable of moving in a variety of directions. The shoulder itself, when looking at the humerus, is also capable of a variety of movements. The scapula as well as the rotator cuff are two areas you should understand if your goal is building a pair of robust, strong, and flexible shoulders. The scapula are those two bones on your back which are a platform for which all the muscles on your back attach to. The rotator cuff is responsible for keeping the humerus, the ball, inside the glenoid fossa socket of your shoulder during arm movements. This group of rotator cuff muscles provides that active stability, which is important for stabilizing that shoulder. Look at it this way. If you built your house on a foundation of mud and twigs, it'd be shaky, unsteady, and that's not a good situation to be in. The human body and the shoulder is very similar. If we have an unstable scapula, poor weakness, and control through that area, then we're not going to be able to produce as much force in our shoulder. Whereas contrast this, if we have a robust rotator cuff that's firing and it's strong in all the ways it should be, our scapula will be nice and stable as we move our arms. We'll be able to produce more force through our upper body and we'll be set. Our goal with all of these band mobilization exercises is to make our scapular foundation like concrete. The big reason we're doing these exercises is for prehab, to address our weak links and improve our performance. What is prehab? It's exercise designed to improve your movement quality as well as your physical resilience. It's commonly used to strengthen weak areas even if you're not in pain. Prehab is done proactively to improve your performance. Rehab is done reactively as a response to injury. Guys, the body is smart. It tries to protect you. So if it deems there being any weakness around your shoulder, it's going to limit your strength potential. Take, for example, overhead pressing type of exercises. If your body sees this as being a bit apprehensive of a movement, it's going to limit how big and strong that you can get. No matter how much you try and push through with those prime movers involved in the exercise, if your foundation of rotator cuff strength isn't there, your performance will be bottlenecked. In terms of building your range of motion, increasing mobility, increasing flexibility, bands are a smart choice. Passive stretching, on the other hand, has limitations. Let's talk about it. You see, passive stretching lengthens muscles, but it doesn't teach the nervous system how to control that new range. Excessive passive stretching without any strengthening can overstretch ligaments and tendons, leading to joint instability. Spending time at that end range without tension, it doesn't teach your brain how to control the joints. For example, if we're using a child's pose for shoulder flexion, it's just not going to teach you how to keep your arms overhead compared to doing shoulder flexion with resistance overhead. The same can be said for shoulder extension. If we're just stretching out here and hanging out, we're not teaching our brain how to control that range by comparison to something active, say a dislocate, where you're actually having to overcome resistance and teach your brain and your nervous system how to move. Bands build active mobility, meaning it allows the muscles to stabilize the shoulder joints. It reinforces movement control through the full range of motion in a way that passive stretching can't. Seriously, band mobility, it gives you the best of both worlds. It increases your range of motion, but it also increases your strength so that you're able to control it and use it in everyday life. With bands, we've got accommodating resistance. The bands increase their resistance as they stretch, which is awesome for shoulder mobility exercises because towards the end range where we need this extra tension, that's where our shoulders are most vulnerable and they're the most weak, so we've got the most to gain. With bands, you're able to unlock multi-planar strength of the shoulder because we can appreciate with this joint how many different movements that it can do, well beyond the sagittal, frontal, and transverse plane of motion. We've got everything in between. So by using bands, we can actually bulletproof our shoulders in every possible direction. Circumduction, the combination of different scapular as well as shoulder movements. Because of your ability to center the shoulder joint in the socket, you're going to have better performance at the gym. You're going to have increased force production to all of those prime mover muscles involved in pushing and pulling. So you're going to have increased force, increased performance, which leads to more muscle and strength. With this enhanced proprioception, you're also going to have more consistency of your technique. This leads to more of that force going to your muscles and less of it going towards the joints and tendons. A stable shoulder allows you to master your technique on every upper body exercise much quicker because of this increased harmony of the muscles around your glenohumeral joint. Your rotator cuff is going to stabilize the joints, so you're going to be less shaky and wonky. Refining these movement patterns with a steadfast technique really does happen thanks to that increased proprioception and scapular control. An important note about warm-ups, these band mobility exercises are a general, non-specific way of prehabbing your shoulder complex. They're helpful, but not essential before your training. The best warm-up you can do is a specific warm-up on the exercises you're training for the day. Take, for example, the bench press. You do a set with the bar, then you add a plate on each side, and then you move on to heavier weights. This warms up the specific movement and muscles involved in the exercise. Remember, band mobility is no replacement for hard training. You're not going to unlock superhuman bodyweight strength or lift heavy ass weights by rotating some bands all day. It has to be part of a holistic training program. Here's a protocol that you can put into practice with these band mobility exercises. I want you doing 10 reps for every exercise, using a slow and controlled tempo, pausing at both the beginning as well as the end. This is going to allow you to capture strength in all those important angles and parts of the movement. You can modify the intensity of these band exercises by working at a longer length on the band, increasing the stretch as well as the tension. You can also choose a thicker or different colored band to increase the resistance that you're working under. A frequency of 2 to 3 times per week is something that I recommend, and how many sets you do of the band exercise depends on your goal. When used as a warm-up tool, 1 set is sufficient and doing your reps well short of fatigue. A common beginner mistake is over-warming up. People are doing all these band and scapular exercises to fatigue, and this isn't great because you're frying all of those stability muscles in your cuff, which isn't a smart idea before an upper body workout where you need them to be functioning for your training. So for warm-ups, keep your sets well shy of failure well short of fatigue, and you'll be sweet. When used as a prehab tool, I recommend doing 2 to 3 sets of the sequence because the goal here is to increase our strength. We should be pushing our sets close to failure, using a heavier band, really pushing that range of motion. And we need this increased intensity as well as volume in order to get some adaptation, some serious changes to our shoulder complex. You can take a shotgun approach by doing everything that I've showed you today. You're going to tick all the boxes in terms of different functions, movements, and muscles of the shoulder, but it's going to take some more time. You can also take a sniper approach and pick the exercises that are most meaningful to you, that address your specific weaknesses, range of motion limitations. You can just go to FitnessFAQs.com and shop our workout programs, where I take out all of the guesswork for you, showing you the perfect way of blending in these weak link scapular rotator cuff exercises into a calisthenics program so you can maximize your performance. Save time, save effort. Check out FitnessFAQs.com and cop a program today. Major shout out to Coach Christopher Summer, Yuri Mamastine, as well as Ido Portal for coming up with these different rotator cuff scapular band exercises that you're seeing today. Just paying credit where credit's due. Otherwise, if you want some more free information, stay right here on Fitness FAQs. I've got so much more I want to teach you about the human body to unleash your full potential.